graduated. And so there's three sort of parts to the job. There's the part that does school and community outreach to encourage students to want to come into higher education. There's the kind of access programs, the special concessions, the scholarship programs, the pathways and so on to ensure that students who want to come and who are capable of achieving higher education can get into Monash. And then there's the programs once they're here, which is the transition, first in family programs and so on, that make sure that we keep them and that they graduate and have a good future. So that's my normal job. But I'm not here in that capacity. I'm here in the capacity as interim Pro-Vice Chancellor Learning and Teaching. As many of you, well, as you will know, Marnie Hughes-Warrington left us at the end of last year to go to ANU, and so I have taken on her responsibilities in the interim until the new PVC Learning and Teaching has been appointed. Just to give you another sort of a 30-second capture, my own background is actually in education. So prior to becoming PVC Social Inclusion, I was the Dean of the Faculty of Education at Monash for 10 years. So, you know, education is my passion as well as my job, and so I suspect that in that I have something in common with a lot of you. So I am very used to thinking about what looks like growth in education and how we can expand our expertise in education. It's what I've done for my living all of my life. So we do have a fair bit in common. My job actually now is to just spend just 2 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes introducing the office of the PVC Learning and Teaching. And what I'm just going to do is to sort of tell you the 3 or 4 things that we do that will be variously of interest to you, and then pass you over to one part of our team. One of the things that the Office of the PVC Learning and Teaching does is to offer the newly designed Graduate Certificate of Academic Practice, and that program is a program which basically new academics to the university take, and some experienced academics in the university also take, and it's intended to, as it suggests, introduce them to both the teaching and the research facets of academic practice. It's been revised extensively recently, and I have to tell you that the teaching results that are coming in from the units over the last year or so have been pretty stunning. So obviously, whatever the changes that have been made are, they appear to be working because it's doing exceptionally well, and so we're very proud of them. The second part of the work that the Office of the PVC Learning and Teaching does is what we call curriculum by design. And this work relates to the review, the reform and the renewal of the curriculum. And there are kind of both management and leadership facets to the work of curriculum by design. There are people who are responsible for ensuring that our course governance is sort of squeaky clean, that we actually do go through the appropriate processes to accredit our courses, and that they are consistent with our policies and so on, that they're respectable. There's the quality assurance, the course and quality assurance and unit assurance that make sure that we're actually doing a good job of our courses and that our courses do what they promise to do. So that's another facet of the role of the curriculum by design people. And yet a third facet are people who's responsible for implementing passport and deaf units and all of those kind of cross-faculty, cross-campus, cross-university kinds of initiatives about the education proposition at Monash. So that's the second group. A third major group are the virtual learning environment people, the VLE. So a very large number of people in the Office of PVC Learning and Teaching are responsible for the university-wide technologies that support learning and teaching, and that are sort of committed to trying to provide accessible and engaging learning opportunities, both for our teachers and our learners. So that's the third group. And the fourth group is the Promoting Excellence team. Is Joy here?
Yep.
I've been staring at you, Joy and Kerry. So Joy and Kerry, and we have others which they'll probably tell you about, but Joy and Kerry are here today from the Promoting Excellence team, and the Promoting Excellence team's role essentially is to support the development of and the recognition of excellence in teaching. So the focus is on teaching. It does have, there's a facet to their work which is about the teaching grants, the fellowships, supporting people to apply for external and internal grants, the acknowledgement, the awards that we have in teaching excellence, and in particular the development of the education-focused roles. So I'm not going to really say anything more about that because I'm now going to pass you over to the two of them to do their work. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joy Whitten, and as you just heard from Sue, I'm part of the Promoting Excellence team. There's actually quite a few of us tonight, so I'm going to just take a moment to introduce us and tell you a little bit about our different roles. Over here we've got Kerry, who heads our team, and she does all administration in every facet of to do with awards and grants and fellowships of our unit. We have myself, Joy Whitten. I tend to concentrate on helping people apply for awards and fellowships. And over on the wall we have Anitra Main at back. We have Matt Hall and Rachel, who focus on grants. Rachel's just been on maternity leave, so Matt's been doing her role when she's been away, so things are just in flux a little bit at the moment. And when things get very busy, we all tend to flow into each other's roles a little bit and help each other at busy times. So we work very closely as a team. I think it's probably one of the successes of Team Our Unit. But what I wanted to talk to you about is our activities in terms of promotion, because we assist people to apply for teaching and learning grants, to apply for teaching awards and teaching fellowships. But I think this is often not seen in terms of promotion, but particularly for education-focused people. But I would also say for other academics in the university, this is absolutely central to your prospects of promotion. So we're going to talk about these in terms of opportunities. These are the opportunities that present themselves, particularly to you people who I really do see as being the leaders of learning and teaching within Monash. We're going to talk about the Office of Learning and Teaching grants. Office of Learning and Teaching has become confusing, right? That is the name of our office. It's actually the national body that comes under the Department of Innovation. Before that it was the Australian Learning and Teaching Council, the ALTC, that may be more familiar to your ears. And before that it was called the Carrick Institute. It's basically the one organisation in its various manifestations over time. They are the major grant body and they administer national teaching awards. We also increasingly are assisting people to apply for a whole range of other grant opportunities that exist out in the community, which are up there, but which we're not going to talk about today. But if you have any contact with us and you have an idea for something you want to pursue and it happens not to fit into the OLT scheme, Matt and Rachel will talk about how it might actually fit into some other funding bodies scheme. Then we're going to talk about awards, the national awards. They are mirrored in their selection criteria by Monash's internal awards, that is the faculty awards that exist in most faculties, although there is some variation in selection criteria across faculties, but most now mirror the national selection criteria. And increasingly now we're also trying to make people aware that there are usually professional association awards that they might want to be aware of, that they could be applying for. I saw someone this morning, in fact, in accounting and finance, who will be going for a national accounting teaching award following his receipt last year of a Vice Chancellor's Teaching Excellence Award. So there's a whole range of those, and sometimes they have come with quite high price tag, as in money tags, or they give you opportunities to go to conferences, they pay for registration, travel, or presentations that they have. And then there are some sometimes focused on careers, so they can be quite significant actually. And then we're going to talk about fellowships, which is something that we haven't had a great deal of interest from Monash staff in applying for it, but I think now with increasing numbers of people going for grants, some of those people should be looking now to apply for fellowships. There are Monash fellowships as well that are like small stepping stones in addition to the grants as a way to get there. They've even got higher amounts of money attached to those than grants, and they are essentially the same kind of things, learning and teaching, research, but you need to have a pretty good track record to win them. There's not many of them around. Now, Matt is going to talk about grants first. He's got to go at 1:45, so I don't want to hold him up, and I'll come back and talk about awards.
Thanks, Stuart. So, I'm just very quickly going to talk about OLT grants and obviously position in the context of this is one of the major sources of funding for you to do the research that will enable you to climb that promotion ladder that Sarah demonstrated. So the grants are essentially research grants for researching, learning and teaching. Not always though, but they essentially, the main category, innovation and development, is largely research grants. There are 4 categories, which I'm briefly going to touch on. Innovation and development is the first one. Then there's leadership for excellence, seed projects, and extension grants. You'll see the amounts of money are not very much compared to ARC levels of funding. But as I said, this is the major source for learning and teaching grant opportunities in Australia. Just very important. Innovation and development. Essentially, these are 2-year projects with funding $220,000. The intention of them is to support research, development, and innovation in higher education, and the orientation of these grants is to affect systemic change in the sector at a national level, and so it's research, but it's research for a kind of a wider purpose. So it's not pure research. And the purpose is to enhance learning and teaching in higher ed. Round 1 it's closed. We've very soon be hearing the results of round 1. But round 2 is now open, which is why I wanted to talk to you about that today. And if you put an application, a full proposal, in under this category, you need to align it with one of these priorities. Intentionally very broad, so that you can fit generally something, you can tweak your application to frame it in a certain way. And for round 2, these are curriculum renewal, improving the pathways into and out of tertiary education. Kind of a catch-all does innovation and development in learning and teaching, and that can be, and there's a focus there on new technologies, but that's not the extent. It can just be an innovative thing you want to implement for research. Internationalisation, which is a big theme this year, because it was also a priority in round 1. And then there's another catch-all research and development, which is anything they've not really thought about. If you pitch a good idea to them, they'll listen to it. So essentially, that's innovation and development. Most of our applicants go for innovation and development. So that's our main grant scheme. Second grant scheme is leadership for excellence in learning and teaching, against the same amount of money over 2 years. This is really just about building leadership capacity for enhancing learning and teaching in higher ed. The 3 kind of priorities, I missed the slide, but the 3 priorities for this. First one's essentially institutional capacity building. Second is disciplinary and cross-disciplinary capacity building. So how to teach your, a particular discipline by building networks of practice, communities, that sort of thing. The third one is applying previously funded projects in your context. So there is a complete list of previously funded projects online on the OLT website. You might see something that was done well at Melbourne, Flinders, and you might want to try it out here. And that's a separate category in leadership, for instance. Now you might think, well, I'm not a leader, I'm not the head of my department, I'm not the dean, I don't have a leadership role. But the way that leadership is conceived in the application guidelines is that you are a leader, as Adam was saying, you're one of the black belts, you're a leader and innovator in learning and teaching in higher ed. So in that context, you're a leader. And so it's leadership distributed, multi-level, take many forms. So it's really, it's not about being a formal leader. The third category is a new category for this year, and so we're still seeing how we've gone. Eagerly awaiting to see how we went at round one, where we put up 4 C projects, which I think was the most of any institution in Australia, so that's good. These are quite popular this year because they offer $50,000 for a project, and they do it over a duration of 1 year. A lot of people have been to see in the last 6 months while I've been covering Rachel's job. People are thinking around this type of amount of money. Always ask the question, you want to do a research project, but how much money do you want? And a lot of people, when we talk through, it seems to be around, they just want to trial something out, something new. Again, not just brand new, but maybe new for their context. They've seen something work somewhere else. This is what the C projects are for. They're just for testing and evaluating original idea. The benefit of these is that the bigger projects, as I'll go on to talk in a minute, are largely collaborative. You really need more than one institution on board in those 4 projects. But C projects, that's not the case. They can have collaborative element, but it's not essential in the same way because the budget is just not there. So they've been very, very popular, and it can be, if you've not done, if this is all very new, then it can be a nice route in, because it can be a path where you go from a C to a full, and then onto another category of grant, which I'll talk about in a minute. So they're worth considering if you've got an idea about something you want to try. The deadlines for this second round, and this is the last round this year, are essentially by the 29th of June we need your full proposal internally. That then goes through an internal process, it's seen by a committee, Education Grants Committee, who will read all the proposals, give lots of excellent feedback. I sat on the last one with Kerry, I need to enjoy, and it was very good to see how pretty much all proposals were commented on and needed a few changes. And it's good to see that the strength of the comments really strengthened and improved the quality of all the proposals, even the ones we thought were excellent to start with. You just go back one. Yeah, just go back. So they've got, if you're interested in putting an application, we do have an expression of interest and a formal procedure. Often we replace that with just you giving us a call to come out and have a chat with you and talk through your ideas, but make sure you're on the right path. Then we need the full proposal on the 29th, but we prefer to work with our applicants quite closely. And so these are for people who just happen to bypass our net and just put in a proposal. We much prefer to work closely in developing your ideas. Once it's gone through the grants committee, we get time to tweak it, and then final submission is the 3rd of August. So they're the dates.
Just to let you know that no proposals can go through to the OLT until they come by the promoting instance team. We're the ones that organise the institutional support letters for you. So it's best to come through us in the first instance, and then we can help you navigate through the process.
Okay. Thanks, Darren.
And ideally, we'd like to see people way ahead of
way ahead. This is the kind of, let's say, if you've got an idea, the quicker you can come and speak with us, and we can help you we can do everything. I was going to talk about that after this extension grant, but I'll say now, we can do everything from reading through your drafts, just making sure it's clear what the the criteria really mean in practice. We can help you rewrite drafts. We can read at any stage, even if you think it's not ready for us to see it. We don't assess them in any way. They go to the committee, and it's a committee that decide on quality. So because we sit in on the committee, we know what they expect, and so we can make sure our role is to get you to that point where it can be submitted to the committee. And we can help at any stage, and that's our job, so don't feel you're imposing.
I was just going to say, I can confirm that, because we haven't put anything in writing on the grant we're going to put up, but we've had two very useful conversations as we try to just work our way through the process. So we're getting there towards that process.
Yeah. And often a chat is really good. Just get your ideas out and we'll draw them out. The final grant category is for essentially for grants that have already got a grant up, and you want to extend it in a different context, in the context of institutions which were not partners in the original project. You can also do that if you see there was a fantastic grant somewhere else in another institution. You want to try a bit of that here. This is also something you might be interested in. There's only 30,000 per project, so it's really focusing on the dissemination of outcomes a lot of the time. Slightly different deadlines to those. See, the first one is gone. The second deadline is the 3rd of September. Now, as I said, there's a full list of previously completed projects, and that's sort of a good place to start when you're thinking about, how do you know what you're thinking is innovative. So it's a good source for looking to see what's already been done in this field. And just to reiterate, this is the process. Bring us in as soon as possible. We'll help you get your grant application to the best possible quality before it goes to the committee. The committee will add extra level of quality, and then it'll be just right to get up. Just a note on the bottom, we help you with the budgets, which are a lot of people don't like them, doing the budgeting. Harry's the master of the budgeting, so we can help you with
accounting, we call it.
we can help you with very much with the budgeting. But if you're thinking even just rough ideas, if you are thinking of a full proposal you want to bring on another institution, you have to factor in at least a minimum of 5,000 for that institution, and vice versa. If you're a partner on somebody else's, you've got to make sure they give us a minimum of 5. It's a way of flagging up that in your ropes you are actually part of this project.
That partnership one actually is quite prevalent. We get a lot of people that get asked, as you may well, to be partners on other proposals. It is very, very important that you ask for $5,000. They're getting used to the pattern now, and most of the institutions are doing that across the sector, but you will not be allowed to participate in any partnership proposal without that minimum allocation coming back to knowledge. Can be counted as research. We will go through that very briefly later, but it is really important that if you are approached, that you put that into play right from the beginning, because you won't get the institutional, you still require an institutional support letter for partnership proposals, and you won't have that unless you have that minimum.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say a really quick one that one of the reasons why that's really significant isn't just the dollar value, it's that we're thinking ahead to your own CVs and your own case for what we talked about in the first hour for promotion. And so if it's substantial, it shows that there's impact and that there's peer assessment from other places and so on. So that's the real reason. It's not just the money, but money's nice. By the way, if you initiate a grant and ask others for 5, that's fine too. I have to just go to the graduation, but I apologize. But
thank you
for that. That's great. Thanks so much for coming. We should do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kerry, I just had a question. Is there a minimum for that amount for that 5,000? Like if the grant's only 10,000?
Well, for OLT, for their grant proposals, the minimum is 5. You would be looking at a grant up to 220,000 anyway for the national grant.
So what's the minimum that you would require that if you?
Well, we've never had it on. Are you talking about a specific type of grant? Obviously, there's flexibility. We're talking about Office for Learning and Teaching grants for this one.
No, it's
For
the other
those,
grants
there
that
would
might be
be
10,000 or something
No,
like
but
that.
you also want to be mindful that you don't want to be working on any project without getting some income to yourself. I mean, we'll talk very briefly about the Category 2 research and how you can get it counted in your ropes and everything, but it is important that it's lovely to do projects, but it's also important to know that you're getting something from those that can benefit you.
I think the comment about it being coming out, I for the first time this year was asked to be on a grant with Deakin Uni, and it was just like, I didn't even have to argue straight up front, they knew that
That's
they had to
right.
put me down
Yeah.
$5,000. So in fact it went on the streets.
Yeah, because you don't
There
have
was money
to ask.
conversation,
Yes.
and what they were expecting in return for the $5,000 was quite realistic. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just
Yeah, but I understand. But I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Yes,
Judy
yeah.
would have to go through and see what
Yeah.
sort of work was required and how much the grant was for.
See, I was
and
on
that
a
sort of
small collaborative grant with RMIT, and they
Yes.
for 15,000, sorry.
Yes.
And they said, oh, can we have 5,000? And I said, well, I mean, you know, all the budget is very, very tight
Yes.
anyway, so, yeah.
Yes, I think it's a case-by-case.
So very quickly, if you are thinking, well, this could be interesting, and you would like to come and chat with us, just some things to think about. Like what kind of projects, particularly innovation and development, because that's what most people go for in the first instance. And the C projects, I forgot to say, are a subset. You can align them with any priority in innovation and development, leadership for excellence, or any other priority. So they're a bit more flexible, but again, innovation and development is the word most of the pitch. Primarily in your mind, this is to enhance student learning or student experience, student focused. Even if it's one step removed, it's got to have some impact. Tangibles, outcomes is another big thing. It's research, but there's got to be something tangible that is affecting change in some way. It's resources or training or workshops or guidelines. Innovative really goes without saying. Collaborative is for the full projects. It does say in the guidelines that single institution applications are eligible. In practice, though, very few would actually get it. It really would be advising people, unless you've got just a very special case, then don't hamstring yourself in what already is a very competitive grant. So something to think about. Obviously, aware of what's being done before. The OLT website has a list of projects. You can have a look at your own time. And dissemination is another big thing. And by dissemination, we could have a whole presentation on what the OLT think about dissemination. But it's essentially really having a strategy for not just producing resources and then going, ta-da, we've done this. Of course you're going to want to use it. It's about identifying your users, potential early adopters, and somehow bringing them into the project. And we can talk more about that, but often that's where your collaboration and things such as your reference groups and an advisory group for all the OLT projects you need to appoint. Often they are very useful at helping you do that.
Now, briefly, I'll just take you through this. This comes back to what Adam briefly said. In the past, Monash, in this space in learning, teaching, research, a lot of it was not being recorded. For a number of years, these grants were getting up and the Monash Research Office weren't recognising them as research categories. There was some work done in the last 12 months between Marnie and the Monash Research Office and Edwina Cornish, where it was determined that all Office for Learning and Teaching grants now coming through the MRO, as long as they have a HERD-C checklist, which I'll talk briefly about, attached to them with the funding agreements, they can be classified as Category 2. Again, it's on your ropes. So now, something that we should mention that we haven't before, if you are applying for grants, even if you are not successful, please still activate the Monash Research cover sheet. Just to show that you are actively engaging this area will also assist with your promotion. As you know, with the ARC, NHMRC, OLT, the success rate is low, but it's not, if you don't get them, it doesn't matter. As long as you are actively reporting them in with a cover sheet. It goes on to, I can't remember, section E or section 3 or something in your ropes. So it shows where you're engaging in these areas. Even if you are not successful, it's still important that when you submit the grant proposal, submit your cover sheet. Obviously they won't activate a cost in a fund until you actually are successful, but that will still be recorded in your ropes, that activity. So we can help you, the Promoting Excellence team, if you have issues with this, but if you're coming through us anyway, we are going to advise you how to move through that process. We can give you the Herd Seed checklist. It's a very, very simple form, which is a tick box, and then when you're successful, you attach it all to the MRO. You'll get no questions.